All right, good afternoon. Welcome to the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners Budget Work Session. It is Tuesday, October 26th, 2021. It's our second session for today. 1:39 p.m. My name is Ty Mentor, Chair of the Board, Vice Chair Commissioner Gary Edwards, Commissioner Carolina Mejia, County Manager Mira Chavez, and Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell. We've got till 4 p.m. thereabouts, and so we're just going to get right back into it. Continuation from this morning's session.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. We're going to launch now into general fund. We've finished almost everything else. There are some items that we'll come back to in other funds once we work through the general fund. And you'll find in your general fund packet that some of the items impact other funds. So any impact to other funds, like treatment sales tax, if it had a general fund component, it's in the general fund packet so that you can see all of the impact to general fund together. I'm going to share my screen. If I can make this up. And share. All right. So looks like it's gonna cooperate. So here you see the general fund model that you've seen many times. And you've got the printout, and I still haven't printed out the most recent one because I'm working to update the projections through the end of the year and get the numbers from the last few departments that I did not have. And tonight, I am hoping that I can find the new sales tax numbers from the Department of Revenue. So when we start talking tomorrow, I will have an updated forecast. So the nice thing is, you know, about this forecast is when the size cooperates, you can see the interactive graph. And this is how it looks with all of the ranking 1 and 2 items funded as requested, except for using the state money for the cameras. If you should do something different for that, then this would change. And of course, it's going to change because what we're going to do next is go through the list, and you'll see the different requests. And what I've set this model up to do is here's the list that you'll be looking at. And if I mark this a 1, then it picks up the money and puts it in, it automatically adds it to the forecast at the policy proposal, and it adjusts the graph. So what we can do is, as you make decisions in real time, I can project the graph on the screen and you can see the impact of every one. So that's the plan at this point.
Just one last piece. The model was before we had that discussion about detention sales tax, correct?
Absolutely. So, and I can add that. Any decisions that you make from here on in, I should be able to lay into the model. I might take it off the screen while I do the messy work and then project it back up and you can see the impact. So that is where we're at today. And I am going.
And we're going through packet 2, right?
We are about to burn our way through packet 2. All right, I would just take just a moment. Oh, I gotta get rid of that too, hang on. to show you what it looks like. With no So with no policy level items at all,
We just stop right
you've
here.
got a ton of money. You can stop right there. And that's what we've done in prior years. One year, when there was not sufficient funding, the then seated commissioners chose what they called a budget freeze. They froze the budget at maintenance level. They allowed offices and departments an opportunity if there was some new thing they wanted to do that was more important than a current thing, they could swap out. But the budget was set at maintenance level. It was a freeze. And that is within your purview, but this year you are not in that kind of a position. So you've got choices to make. You certainly don't have 13 million to spend, but I think that we can create some capacity for the board to be able to make some decisions with the money that you've got. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and we'll start working our way through this.
I could just imagine the pitchforks if we said no policy request. Sorry.
Yeah, we're just putting all the money in the bank.
Everybody's attentive to this conversation.
Yeah. All right, so
I'm just curious, and a question for the board related to the detention sales tax. That maybe, as Robin explained a couple of days ago, there is a capacity for you to consider. I wonder if we can, for a second, revisit that, to see if in fact the board feels comfortable to take that, and that will add the capacity of the overall general fund. And they can work holistically, if I may suggest, on the capacity they have to hold.
I'm good with that.
So the question then becomes, I think that you've got 2 million easy that you could use out of detention sales tax. Now, it's not that easy because as Commissioner Mensah brought up, there may be other things that you want to do in the long term with your detention sales tax money. You may want to leave money in the bank for a future project. You may have some work we want to do, such as, I think it was Commissioner Mejia asked about the cameras. We could certainly pay for the jail cameras at the adult jail, no problem, and any cameras in the juvenile facility, the juvenile detention facility could be paid, not the courts, but definitely in juvenile detention.
What's that, $500,000?
I would have to ask my staff to run the amount, because the central services estimate, well, it's actually right here. They put it on the back of the worksheet. So the amount for corrections is 600,000 in '23. It's the bulk of the $824,000 request because those cameras and that system is failing now and really needs to be replaced as soon as possible at the jail. And then at the FJC, yeah, that's to start to put money away for when it does need to be replaced. The estimated replacement cost will eventually be about $200,000, but that doesn't need to happen until 2029. So really, the bulk of it is the adult jail. And if you put 600,000 toward detention sales tax as almost a one-time, you could set it up to pay over time. But that would be the bulk of this particular item. Pay it with detention sales tax. So you could do that. You may or may not want to fund all of the requests from the sheriff. We were looking at those yesterday. They add up to about 900,000 in 2022 and a little over $1 million in 2023. I think they were 1.2 million in 2023. Yes, for corrections.
Corrections related requests.
Yep. And you could choose to put all of those toward detention sales tax or some portion of them. So there's a lot of options here. It's not as easy as just let's take $2 million out.
Understand.
Were you raising your hand?
Yes, sir. I was just gonna kind of say, if the cameras at the jail are a priority because they're failing, then we have the availability of funding. I'm really gonna push for that or advocate for that because it's a necessity at this point.
I agree with that, but I'm gonna be optimistic, and having heard Commissioner Mentzer's discussion on the LEAD program, I think we're gonna be successful in population reduction in the jail as time goes on. And so that takes a little pressure off a jail bill situation. So I'm not too worried about that fund not being adequate to do that. So I'm kind of with Commissioner Mejia on let's get it done with. And Robin, on that particular purchase, that's a one-time purchase rather than an ongoing purchase, is that right?
The 600,000 is one time because we need to purchase the cameras now for the current system, but what is ongoing is the contribution into not ER&R, this is the building reserve fund, but it's like ER&R. And you would make the annual contribution so that the next time the board isn't looking at we gotta put in 800,000 today.
It might not be quite as flexible.
That's right. So it's about 90,000 a year to start to contribute to
And
building reserve.
what's the lifespan on those particular cameras, 6 years or something?
They are estimating well, we've had, the ones we have right now were purchased in 2013.
Oh, okay.
So they will have lasted 10 years. And the guys, it's got a 5% escalator in it. So they don't anticipate replacing them in the next 8 years. So they may be estimating a 10-year life cycle.
Yes.
But the money would be there next time if you're paying it. And we could pay into the fund from detention sales tax, that annual amount.
Okay, I'm good.
So I'm not quite sure where that leaves us.
Maybe we can just go through the list, and then when we find the items they're eligible for detention sales tax, then you can exercise your.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing to keep in mind, because you kind of identified 3 things, we just dealt with one of them. If we're going to set aside the future project, you can fund things directly from the sheriff's corrections asks for new things. You can also shift for existing programs there, and then you'd have general capacity to fund other priorities. So we still have to sort of weigh the sheriff's corrections priorities with whatever other things are gonna get squeezed out by, of this packet.
That's exactly right.
And I'm, I hope we can fund as many as we can, it's just a matter of which ones. Because I understand what Commissioner Edwards is saying, he doesn't have to twist my arm very hard about the jail build. I just started, when I started to see that 17, when it starts to get, if money that you didn't really even expect is gonna solve a massive problem, like that starts to become attractive. When you revise that, it would take quite a few years to get to the point that we could actually fund the flex
That's right.
unit out of there. We could bond toward it, I guess, but it's it was a little bit less attractive than it was when I saw the 17 million by 2025. That started to look like, wow, that might
That was
solve
a
this
lot of
problem.
money.
19 million just a year and a half ago to solve that problem.
Right, right. Bonding is not a bad option.
Yeah.
It would get you there. And I will say, from, and I realize the board is not particularly enamored of the idea of building the flex unit, but as you've heard before, it's not necessarily the overall population. It's the population with special needs that does not have a place. We hope that the lead is successful in bringing those numbers down, but there's
Right.
also not a appropriate place for women at the jail. So that's the whole point.
Well,
And we've got a upcoming meeting to talk about that very thing. So I won't get any more into that. So we're gonna start at the top of building 2, the top of building 2, the packet number 2. And I'm gonna ask you to make yay or nays, and we're gonna start with your number 1 items with the assessor. This is the position change for the appraiser assistant to a senior appraiser in the assessor's office. Line 1, up or down? We got 3 others.
I think we're looking pretty good until we get to page 3.
To line 3 is also for the assessor. It is 45,000, a little more for just appraised software. 2 thumbs up. Yep.
So,
Yeah.
question in regards to the revenue in 2023 for the information on number 4.
That is a payment into the information technology fund
Okay.
where it's for to pay the rates. Yep. Line 5 is for the assessor. It is for increased staff safety through community outreach. And this is where they would do more communication work with a notice of a mailing. Is this the one where he's gonna make a letter
Letter, not a
instead of a
card.
card?
Yeah.
So it's mainly postage and printing costs. I see 1 thumb, 2, 3. B70706 is for district court. It is for court supplies, $7,000 a year. Yes, yes, and yes. Prosecuting attorney, this is an impact on treatment sales tax. It is the bulk of the impact. This is one that Carrie thought was in maintenance level, but it's in policy. And they're asking to charge more charges to treatment sales tax fund to the tune of about $400,000. A decrease to the general fund. Yep, thumbs up, good. And on page 3,
That is an option for the CAD, for the
yes.
accounts.
So let's take them together. there's line 9, and there's line 11. Those are your two options for the body cameras. And Commissioner Mensah, you asked an excellent question, and we've been trying to kind of hone in on the answer. The ongoing costs for the cameras, if you go with just the cameras.
Just the lease option?
Yeah, so the lease option, either way, I'm gonna step back. Either way, lease or buy, they are asking for 2 FTEs to respond to the public records requests. And they're saying they're absolutely going to need both of those. So the ongoing cost under either option for those 2 FTEs is roughly $442,000.
That's just those 2 FTEs?
No, plus the cameras.
No, that's just the 2 FTEs.
400.
Are you sure?
It's the staffing, the
Cloud storage, camera system.
leave, it's all the benefits, it's miscellaneous costs tied to FTEs, small tools and equipment.
That's just a
training.
new deputy with a vehicle.
Yeah, that's kind of.
I
So,
don't think they're asking for
ongoing
deputies.
administrative under each
No,
of
no, that's what
these,
I'm saying, the cost seems to be a little bit
440,000.
excessive.
So, if you went with buying the cameras, then you also have an ongoing payment into ER&R. And that's what drives the cost up in 2022 to where wait a minute.
Yeah, I'm thinking this is
This has
mixed up
no.
here.
Okay, so the admin cost, that 400,000, that includes a payment to ER&R. And then the cost of the cameras is $1,193,000. So.
But you don't have ER&R if you're leasing.
That's right. If you lease, you're gonna be paying in, you'll be paying out $470,000 a year. So you can either pay $441,000 in ongoing costs every year, or you can pay $470,000 in ongoing costs every year, with the lower amount being buying them and the higher amount being leasing them.
But that includes, but then you have to add into the buying, the purchase of the,
Yep, so we'd have,
but you're talking about like what would be this one time, like outside the context of the one-time money, you're saying there's a
About
$30,000 a year
$50,000.
savings to buy.
yeah,
But we'd be spending $1 million of state taxpayer dollars
that's
to
right.
save the $30,000 a year, which over 5 years is $150,000 to the county. It's not very efficient use of resources,
You're
but
putting money into a savings account so that the next time it's time to buy them, the money's there. So you're still gonna buy them the county's gotta buy them 5 years from now. 5 years from now, we're not gonna get state money, so there's that. The 5-year lease, Denise sent me a little information about this. The 5-year lease is not renewable. It's 5 years and then you'd have to renegotiate it. And then in the long term, these are so close. The amounts are so close. So it's whichever one you prefer. And again, the coroner has given us some requests to spend the one-time money, but if we don't spend it on this, we'll give the bulk of it back.
Where's the corner?
What did the coroner ask for out of this?
Yeah.
I believe it was a vehicle.
We have one of the items is a vehicle. If you give me just a minute.
Can I help you, Robin?
Here is the bucket sheet on the law and justice.
So the other items were radios and mobile computers.
So one time.
They are truly one time.
Those are coroner asks or sheriff asks?
Those are coroner asks. The only thing the sheriff asked for out of this was the body cameras. So the sheriff would buy the body cameras. The coroner would have $79,000 for a vehicle, $30,000 for mobile computer terminals, and $45,000 for, oh, that talks about a vehicle. What's the $75,000 for? It's for radios. Radios. Yeah.
75,000 and how much? 45,000?
$150,000 in total is what the coroner asked for.
Okay, I think there's some misunderstanding. I don't think he's asking for 2 deputy sheriffs to manage this.
No,
He's not asking for deputy sheriffs, he's asking for legal assistance to
Yes.
be able to respond to the
Okay.
LFOs.
Yeah.
No, my comment was related to the cost of the legal assistance. Did it cost as much as funding new deputies with vehicles? Because the cost of $469,000. Robert clarified that cost includes the
Yeah.
contributions to ER&R, so the
ER&R.
cost for the administrative,
Right,
so it's less than that.
yeah, okay,
So that was my comment. I'm not suggesting that he's asking for
Okay.
new deputies.
okay.
Okay, well,
The sheriff is content either way. As long as there's money going into ER&R, if we buy them, he's fine. If you want to lease them, he's fine.
I thought there was something about leasing them. If he leases the cameras, it's a contract with the provider, and the provider provides the FTEs to do the,
No,
it's not true.
no, he needs that.
Either way,
And either way,
he needs.
two positions, yeah.
Yep.
So I guess the conversation that I would like to have with the board is, at a high level, do you support body cameras for the sheriff's office? I mean, that will be the first decision.
Well, here's,
And then the mechanism will be the next point.
the risk folks think it's a good idea.
Everybody does.
So, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to buy them. I want the state to buy everything associated with all the legislation.
No, first, that's what I asked.
They ever put through.
I'm asking the board if the board is,
Yeah, okay.
So,
Well,
yeah,
on the
body
body
cameras, yes or no?
yes or no on the body cameras.
yeah,
Yes.
I don't know how we.
Yes.
yeah, this was
okay.
the sheriff's #1 priority, and it also has a lot of collateral potential benefits, so.
So now the next decision is leasing or purchasing outright.
I mean, I know I was the one complaining about how it's kind of slow and methodical, but I think we're getting to good decisions out of this sort of methodical way we're doing it, but it's just hard for me to believe that that we can't be creative. Like, I would like to lease them and then use that money for other stuff, like the coroner stuff and some other stuff. I'm sure there's things that we're just not thinking of. Like, we just left it to the departments and nothing probably flew into their head. I haven't put any particular brain power of my own into how can we utilize this money for our needs? We know we have a lot of needs related to law and justice. I know it has to be connected to litigation that was passed, but I still feel like there's gotta be a way to make more use, because if we chew all that money up with the body cams and we're really not saving that much, it kind of feels like we're not being good stewards of resources, that putting them to maximum use, either for Thurston County or Washington taxpayers in general.
Can I ask, what? I like thinking outside the box when it comes to.
Sure.
So I guess following up on Commissioner Menser's point, I mean, what, the $1 million that we have from the state, it can, I know it can only be used on like one-time purchases, but what does it cover? Is it only for specific offices? Like what?
So the boundaries are, may only be used on purchases of one-time costs that are attached to law enforcement and criminal justice legislation passed in the 2020 and 2021 legislative sessions. So we created the list, Romero and Elizabeth and I sat down and said, okay, going through all the bills that were passed in those two legislative sessions, here are the criminal justice and law enforcement bills. And then we sent that list along with here's the parameters to the sheriff, the prosecutor, district court, superior court, juvenile court, the clerk, the coroner. Am I forgetting someone? They're the people that would be impacted by that type of legislation. And we said, okay, here's your opportunity. What impact do you have that's one time that we can pay for with this $1 million? Please tell us. And these are the 4 that we got.
What do you think that the legislature was thinking about when it gave us this money? Was
I
it
know-
thinking about body cams?
Heck no, they weren't thinking about body cams. They were
They were trying to get away with
about,
unfunded mandate?
yes.
That's
Litigation.
exactly right. So we went through the definition of the legislation is pretty loose, but it is key, it's related to the impacts of the new law and justice legislation, one time impact.
To get away from the unfunded mandate.
So those are
right?
the 3 elements that we picked, at least on the definition. So when we send those bills that have passed over the last 2 years to the law and justice partners, they went through that and they couldn't identify the one time.
Because there was one time.
So that's the thing, it's one time.
That's the kicker.
Yeah,
It's the one-time
of the
nature.
impact. So
All of the impact of these bills is ongoing.
Right, and so I don't see how that saves the state from litigation. We can still litigate, saying
Well-
you just created a bunch of ongoing mandates, your one-time
Well, let's
money.
spend the money before
yeah, and you know,
they say give it back.
going back to your point, I think you're making a good point, right? To make it a better use of this one time. But it would be very tasking, I believe, to find that one time specific
Well, I think the
activity.
review's already been made.
Yeah, without the law and justice partners, which they already went through that process, they didn't come up with one.
I can think of a lot of things that are not one time.
They
That's
could
it.
Yeah,
do.
absolutely.
But
But that was the kickers, the one time.
I mean, if we're gonna go by that analysis, I don't see any other way than purchasing.
Otherwise, we give the money back.
Yeah,
I
that
mean,
doesn't
all
make
but
sense.
So if we're saying-
150,000 of it, which by the way is just killing me. But that's your choice.
Well, if we're not giving the coroner $150,000 of stuff he needs,
Well-
that's,
He's gonna get something.
yeah, he's gonna get something, but he's asking for a simple.
No, he was,
He was just trying to be creative and comes up with things that fit
so
this
he
criteria.
was responsive to the request.
Yeah.
Right.
So without the request, I don't think he would have submitted that as a policy level. Here's,
Well,
oh, you think so?
there's a couple of these things that he would have submitted anyway, yeah.
So he was responsive to the one-time impacts to this legislation. So
I mean, could we get the coroner's vehicle from ARPA because of all the increased COVID deaths?
No.
I don't know.
Because testing supplies for COVID, which
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
we're-
oh,
we're-
oh, yeah,
yeah, we're in the
yeah, no,
process.
we're on that,
Yeah,
we're all on that, that's okay, just.
Well, I guess, I'm just trying to justify this to myself. I guess I said this before, I'll say it again. Maybe there's the value, but when you own them and they're working better, like they last longer than you thought they were gonna last. 5-year lease, like 5 years, you're paying that much and then you got nothing. Whereas when you own them, sometimes you can extend their life because they're working better than you thought, or the technology has not really advanced.
So
Then you start to save money in the back end.
Right, so not even 5 years, under either option, the company that we purchased them from will replace them at 2.5 years. So they're thinking these things got a really short life cycle.
But if we're purchasing them,
Even if we purchase them, the company will work with us and replace them in 2.5 years at no additional cost.
Oh, okay, I
That's
was
what
like,
we've been told.
that started making me nervous. I was like,
So that's what the sheriff, I met with the undersheriff and Chief Thompson.
man, that's hard to believe,
you've made a good argument for purchasing them. Thank you.
Okay, well, that's what you'd like to do?
I don't see any way around it.
I could go either way,
I think.
kind of go with you guys on this one.
If I may, purchasing, a couple positive elements on that decision perhaps. You utilize the money one time. In this model, you put money on the ER&R that is going to be replacing. Then you'll be in the position to replace it, have the money, then you start picking when those cameras will be needed to be replaced. So on the leasing option, in 5 years, you have to renegotiate the whole contract again. So it may not be at that time the same amount, it will be more perhaps, but that is the risk.
just,
By then,
Just
inflation's
feels
gonna get us by about 25%. It's gonna be crazy.
All right, so 3 thumbs for purchase.
That's what I'm good for.
Okay.
All right,
Which
thank
one
you.
is?
So, item 11,
9 is a no because we're doing 11.
yeah, there's the alternate. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Go back to line 10.
Sorry, technology is not my friend today. Yep. No, yes, and line 10 is the sheriff's request that you restore funding for 2 deputy positions that, and I can lay this out for you again, but I would agree that they are currently unfunded due to the way the sheriff did his 2% reduction.
That came as a surprise to me. Okay, not there.
I know.
You don't
It's
need-
not typical. I mean, just to,
It
on
is
Ramiro's behalf,
extremely-
it wasn't something that we'd seen before, and
Right, it was,
it's understandable that confusion. Okay,
1, 2,
this was the sheriff's second priority, so trying to
Right.
meet his top needs.
moving right along. Line 13 is connected to 12. Line 14 is for corrections. This is funding for increased academy costs due to the increased length of the academy. In corrections, we could pay for this with detention sales tax. Yes, yes, and yes for detention sales tax? Yes, okay.
So then you can remove that from our model?
DST. Yes, I will be taking that out of the model, but it will be funded. The line 15 is also for corrections. It is wage adjustments for certain staff based on market study results. And this is the conversation you were having earlier today. This would be to fund the changes that HR is
For
recommending.
the three classes that they
No, this
identified.
is different.
Yep.
And also, yeah, this is portion of, yeah. Which you have not made that decision yet.
I did.
1, 2, 3, and would you like to do it from detention sales tax?
Yes.
Yes, yes, oh yes, it's corrections. Commissioner Mejia, detention sales tax for this one?
Yes.
Yes.
So that connects to the discussion this morning then, right? We just agreed to give those three classes a,
No,
no, then I need an explanation. I
Well,
retract
that's-
my vote and I
So
need.
that's what that's what my comment was, you have not made those decisions yet related to the conversation you had this morning.
this is a separate division of the corrections.
That is the,
No, these are the positions.
positions that you're.
I thought we're giving these folks 5%. No,
It's not.
No.
That's what's on hold for more
2
conversation.
10 and 1 5 out of the three. And you guys didn't want to do that because you weren't satisfied with the other two.
That's what I wanted to clarify because.
But I want to give them that bump because we know they deserve it. So
I want to give them the 5% that are not, those that aren't getting something right now, I want to give it to them.
That's what's not on this page.
that's not a thing we're voting on.
This is based on staff's proposal.
To give the three.
So it's not the same as what we talked about this morning.
It is the same. It is the staff's proposal what is in here for your consideration. But if you vote on this, you're voting on the staff's proposal. And you haven't got to that point yet. You asked to continue to have the conversation next week.
So I can put this on hold.
Okay.
It can't get held past Thursday, though. I mean, there's gonna have to be a decision by Thursday. But, we'll hold this for now.
I mean, I might be outvoted, but we could put on hold what to do about the two remaining that don't have comps and move forward on these three. I don't know, that may not be where my
Could indeed
seatmates
do
want to
that.
go, but that could be a decision we make, and that would be my preferred option. 'Cause
I
don't-
think,
That's fine with me,
I think
yeah,
that's okay.
and then put on hold the other two
And then we'll
positions.
discuss how to handle those other two. But it sounds like we're agreed to move forward on these three, budget for these three increases.
For the three? Okay, so then all right.
So for November 2nd, at least you'll have the revision as the classifications. This supports this, because you need to take an action in approving.
change the classes.
They change the classification.
Okay. You guys
All
got
right.
that?
So that's a yes for these
So
items.
Commissioner, so you will see an agenda item associated with this. So
Okay.
just want to make sure that.
The classes that correspond to the funds.
Yeah.
All right.
Right. And line 16 is connected to that. Line 17 is funding for the purchase of a jail transportation vehicle,
I think there's
and it can be with ARPA. Yes, 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 and with ARPA money, yes, 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 I think. Yes. Line 18 is tied to that. Line 19 is funding for increased contracted provider costs. This is an increase for the service provider that provides services in the jail.
For
So
health care, right?
$26,000 a year, it's contracted, part of it's paid out of treatment sales tax, and we could pay the non-TST part of detention sales tax. Yes, 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 and yes out of DST? Yes. Line 21 is to restore funding for 2 correction deputy positions. Same as in the sheriff's office, it was the way they took the 2% cut, has left us with 2 unfunded positions in corrections, and we could pay this with detention sales tax. Yes, yes, Andy. Commissioner Mejia, did you already
Yeah.
get? All right, yes, and I'm assuming that is a yes with detention sales tax.
Yeah.
Okay. Lines 22 and 23 are for human resources. It is shifting about $6,500 out of the general fund to insurance risk. It is a cost allocation item. It's technical.
That's just a move.
It's a
No
technical
impact.
item, so just say yes, please. Thank you. 24 is non-departmental, and it goes through line 28. And this is the moving of all the parts to shift to direct appropriation. So it's, the general fund pretty much stays the same, and it all lets out at the end.
So there's
it's
$500.
technical. Yep. Yes. Are you good with that, Commissioner Edwards? All right. Line 29 is connected to 30 and 31 as well. And what this is establishing a habitat conservation mitigation fund and program. And this is for the administration of conservation land that is bought in connection to the HCP. They are asking for $50,000 in seed funding from non-departmental. And then once it gets up and running and they have started selling mitigation credits, the fund will generate itself, basically.
So that's a technical issue.
No, that's not technical. This is definitely a policy choice.
Policy choice, but this is part of the investment on the HCP.
I thought we already said we were gonna do that.
Where you have 3 highs, absolutely.
You've agreed to purchase land out of conservation futures. What you have not established yet is the caretaking of the land that is purchased, and that's what this fund will
Why,
do.
and we can't do that out of conservation
No, you
futures?
cannot. The maximum amount of conservation futures that can be spent on maintenance and operations is 25%, and you dedicate that entire amount to parks and trails.
Even for the HCP?
Including for the HCP, it's
Okay.
regardless of what type of M&O you spend it on.
Okay.
I see 1, 2, 3, including the 50,000 in seed money.
For me.
Yes? Okay, I'm gonna say yes to all of that. Okay, that takes us to line 32. We are now to the second ranking items. We can take a short 5 minutes and I can enter these decisions in the model and we can see where we're at.
Yeah, please.
Okay, so let's do that. Take a short, take 5.
Thank you.
7 p.m. We're back after a short break to get some numbers updated and the model updated, and back to you, Robin.
And so you have worked through all of the items that each of you ranked as a high priority. At policy level, you have spent $114,000 out of your approximately 2 to 2.5 million of capacity. So,
Wait,
What?
the body cams was for.
Well, yeah, but that was-
yeah,
that
but
was
we
that
used,
$1
we
million.
used other people's
But we
money
have to
that I
build
had
into
already
operational.
accounted for that.
Oh, you had already accounted for that.
I made the brash assumption that the board would choose to use the money that the state gave us.
What about the 2 FTEs for the sheriff?
They are factored in because part of these policy level proposals have reductions in general fund spending.
Oh, I see what
So-
you're saying.
so-
The net.
Yep, the net so far,
Okay, so that's,
114, and the graph then looks like you've got a ton of money. So, that's where we're at right now.
Don't go to the bank yet.
Yeah, don't go to the bank yet, that's right, there's more to come. So we're gonna launch into the number 2 ranked items. Starting on page 6 with line number 32. So, and by the way, just for the sake of total clarity, the 114,000 is not all you spent. You did choose to spend the $1 million from the state, and you've chosen to spend some money out of detention sales tax that I haven't added up yet, and a little bit of your recovery fund. All right.
EST.
Yep,
Yeah,
some TST as well. All right, so here we go. Line 32 is for the assessor. This is about $3,000 a year for data sharing for vital statistics.
I guess I don't know what that means. So do you know what it means? I mean, I'm not gonna argue about it, I'm just
I
curious.
think this is to provide the tax exemption for senior and disabled
Disabled people.
persons.
they've got to
Right.
get automated, they got to get updated information more frequently, and there's a fee for that.
Okay.
That's exactly right.
It's an update of the data they use.
Yep.
Olivia, did you have something? Okay,
So, line 32, 3,000 a year for the assessor. I see one thumb to Commissioner Mejia.
it's line 4 on the original sheets.
The next item is also for the assessor. It is a little over 3,000 in year 1. It goes up to 6,000 in the second year, at which point in time it is built into the rates. This is funding for software, and what the assessor is saying is that he is asking for 4 licenses for SPSS software. And I could not tell you exactly what they do with that software. SSPS is a pretty standard type of software.
I'm good with it. I'm not gonna argue. He needs software, he can't do it without it.
You can't do your job without the computer stuff these days.
Let me know when you want to bring the Eagle view.
You want me to talk about that now? Okay, so you will recall, 2 of you may recall, that last year while you evaluated the CARES Act funding, that the board approved the purchase of a software from EagleView, and it wasn't software, it was pictometry, EagleView pictometry. And they were gonna do the flights, and you're aware that there's a current discussion going on about the next flight. But for the work that we paid what we could at the time the board approved the CARES funding. Now the second bill is here. It's $109,000. The first thing we did was reach out to our internal auditor and ask, is this eligible for recovery fund money? And it would be if the work had been done on or after March 3rd of 2021, but it was not. We don't know yet when the work will be done. So
What was the reasoning the auditor said?
why did the auditor say yes?
Yeah,
It's just about the timing when that occurred.
The timing.
I mean, even though we ordered it, budgeted for it, decided about it,
No, the ARPA funds has a beginning of March 1st, 2021.
March 3rd.
March 3rd, 2000, sorry.
It's very
March 3rd,
specific, March 3rd.
2021. This occurred
The day the
prior
president signed the bill.
to that.
We can't,
That's the issue.
we cannot pay with that money for work done prior
March
to
3rd.
that date. So we are trying to get clarity on when this work was done.
The second flight?
Yeah, no, this is a second, it's not, that flight is yet to come,
Right.
obviously.
You said second bill.
This is the second bill. Because the first bill did not encompass all the work done so far. We have the second bill.
And,
We gotta figure out when the work.
Let me take you back to both of you when you had the conversation.
This is
And,
a fun one.
I remember stating to the board, if you're committed to this, you also commit in general fund at that time. And here we are. And because even when the CARES money was available, it was only a portion. They qualified under the COVID regulations. So when you knew that that was coming, I appreciate going through the process to see if we can use ARPA funds and opportunity.
So what is the bottom line for today's purposes?
Well, we don't know yet. We're not quite sure how much of this work has been done under, prior to that date. So we're working on it, but it is very possible that the whole 109,000 would have to come out of the general fund. So this is a heads up. Dennis is working on getting us an answer, working with the company.
does he know the parameters that might be beneficial? As he's-
Parameters that might be beneficial.
to us using that money?
I'm sorry, Commissioner, I'm not sure what you're saying.
Well, I don't want to say he would adjust anything, but I'm just saying.
No, he would not adjust anything.
Oh, I see what I said.
We
No,
will.
sir.
Okay.
No, we're gonna find out when the work was actually.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Are there more bills that are gonna be coming?
I'm sure that there are. There's going to be the bill for the upcoming flight once it's determined what that flight looks like.
And for the upcoming flight, can that, who are we currently, is it only with stakeholders within Thurston County that we're currently partnering with this, or are we partnering outside as well with schools or with other police departments or?
We provide geodata to outside stakeholders.
Okay, and they pay,
And they pay, I think, a portion of it, but they don't pay for the flight, they pay for the product at the end.
The maps, and it's not expensive.
So, for the flight cost, we already have built in our rates, the flight, because that occurs every 2 years. The conversation needs to happen is summer or winter flights, and that discussion should be coming up.
I'll just say that, I knew all this was gonna happen, and I knew it was, what surprised me was when I looked at the assessor's budget thing and it wasn't in there, and I was kind of like, oh, somehow we got that paid or covered or solved, like, that's where I was surprised, because I was fully expecting a big chunk in the assessor or whoever, you know,
Next biennium.
who,
Yeah,
for,
it's in the rates. So you see the internal service rates go up. This is one of the things that did that.
okay, because it's being spread across different funds.
Right,
Yeah.
right. But that's in the ongoing.
Right,
But
that's
here's
in
the-
22.
The first initial investment.
Okay,
We're trying to
wouldn't-
figure out how to
Wouldn't
pay
even
this
with that
bill.
first initial investment, some funds come from, I don't know, the road department and some come from general fund?
Well, that's the thing is the 2-year lag when we put the rates in place.
That's one of those 2-year lag.
well, just to
That'll
put
give you a
it,
headache.
put it in context, this was a 700 and something or $800,000 product. So if we, I mean, given, I'm just taking the assessor at face value, given the value that he described, if we can pay $109,000 for an $800,000 product, we got a good deal, right?
At face value, yes.
Okay.
All right,
So just
just
make
letting
you
you
aware that
know.
that is coming, if it's coming.
Could be coming. All
Thank
right,
you, Robin.
well, thank you for that diversion, and back to the budget. So we are on page 7, line 35. The assessor has asked for money in his budget for cases and the annual service cost for 10 newly acquired smartphones. It's the ongoing expense of having the phones.
So 5,000 a year or something?
Yeah, roughly 5,000 a year.
Here's my thought on that. With smartphones, you can always know where that person is. And that was an issue of his, for safety. They can kind of be like a radio, if you will. I mean, you can call in, although everywhere we don't have service for sure, you know, but you can still always be aware of their location for safety. Anyway, I think I put that as a high.
Yeah, you did, because that was the median on that one.
Anyway, and for safety of the folks. Okay.
What was the medium on one of the other ones, so I don't know, kind of sideways about it
So-
now.
So I would just also, the assessor is going to have this cost, whether you approve additional funding for it or not. Because they've replaced the smartphones, they have the new smartphones, they had been until very recently apparently using flip phones. So he's going to have this cost. I would remind the board that the assessor has approval for an FTE to be paid for out of the REIT Technology Fund, that he has so much capacity in his general fund appropriation that this year he was able to shift the entire cost of that FTE to the general fund. He may be able to afford this $5,000 a year in phone costs and shift a little less out of the REIT Technology Fund in the future.
I'm still voting for it because I think it's safety of.
Say yes.
I'm voting for it.
So we got
Safety of the
two
officer.
thumbs up. Yep. If
Well,
he's gonna have
officers, I
it,
guess, but staff.
either way. The next item is for the auditor, line 36. It is $105,000. She's got the entire amount coming in as revenue from other jurisdictions, and this is for election redistricting costs. So there's no
Kind of a
impact
wash.
on fund
This is a
balance,
wash.
it's a wash.
Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
yes, yes. Line 37, it's a B0209. This is funding for the auditor to do the work on redistricting for the Board of County Commissioners and the port. If the population is so great that we would go from 3 to 5 commissioners.
And we're splitting the cost of the port, right?
Yes, we would split the cost with the port, that's why half of the revenue, half the amounts of revenue. 2 thumbs up, 3 thumbs
Considering a
up.
proviso, that we reach the 300,000 population.
Well, do we need that proviso? We're not gonna do it.
Because the port can go on.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
But we don't have that, that's not gonna be in our MOU, that we're gonna be, it's just providing service for them if we're not part of the deal. I mean, that's fine, I don't have a problem, just trying to keep it simple. If you think that's wise, that's fine,
My suggestion for you to consider that proviso.
I'm good.
that's fine.
Okay. All right, good. Line 38 is from the,
Maybe a good point to give you an update. You review the draft resolution, joint resolution with the Port of Olympia.
Yes, I do.
So the Port of Olympia Commission reviewed that resolution yesterday, and they're going to be considering passing that on November 8th.
Okay,
I will bring an item for your consideration to do the same on November 9th.
great.
So, and that will coincide, and I will not be here, but, we'll carry through that, hopefully with council. Give you a heads up. I'm working on it.
Send a little note to the Olympian too, so they
Yeah.
can be aware. It's a pretty big deal, I think, that they would want to be communicating to the public about. If you're looking at Robin, because you might be the county manager of the day.
that would be the
So,
Acting.
Brian, the message was for you while you were walking in.
Yeah.
So on November 9th, we're going to have an action, a proposed action by the board to pass a joint resolution with the Port of Olympia Commission related to the potential 5 commissioner redistricting for next year.
And the cost there.
So you may want to start drafting a news release in preparation to the November 9th action.
Kind of shared cost. I mean, that is-
All right? Okay, thank you. So back to the list. Line 38, we're on page 7, and this is B0315. This is from the commissioners. This is a priority on the whiteboard exercise, and it is to add a climate mitigation coordinator. 1 thumb up. 1, 2 thumbs. Commissioner Edwards?
And this money comes out of,
General fund.
General fund.
and we've already set some aside to do it, haven't we?
No, that's separate from the set aside.
So this would be brand new?
Yep.
And there's no other place to get this? No green fund anywhere?
I'm sorry?
No green fund?
No.
Well, the dollar is a green bag.
And we can't use it to, out of that 300,000. We got 330 in that fund.
That is not the intent, because the 330 is a one-time for the board to consider implementing specific actions. And this particular position is to help implement those actions in the long term, in coordination with the regional approach that we're working with the TRPC and the other jurisdictions.
Just in his arm, just in his arm.
Okay, I'm gonna do it.
2, all right, 3 thumbs up on line 38. 39 goes
Thank
with
you.
that.
Okay, thanks.
Line 40 is a placeholder. It's funding for implementing the racial equity plan. And this is funding that's set aside to implement the plan once you have it. And we don't know what costs we're going to have until we have the plan. So I see 1 thumb up to Commissioner Edwards, $50,000.
It's $2,000?
50,000.
52,000.
50,000.
50. Line item number 4.
I thought we were gonna wait until we had a plan. You know,
This is for the plan.
this is for the plan?
Yeah. Or no?
Yes.
Oh, it's like,
Yes.
I thought you said no. I was like, oh, wait. Then what is it?
Sorry, Commissioner.
And who's actually gonna, put this together? Are we gonna have an FTE or?
Nicole's
Got
already.
the-
It's gonna be Nicole? This is her expense account?
Well,
maybe?
yes, she needs resources to start implementing the plan.
Okay, okay.
1, 2, 3 thumbs, yes, all right. Good. Line 41 is for the treasurer's office. This is for retirement leave buyout. I'm going to suggest that this be on hold until we come back and look at the leave buyout bucket of all the different things that have been proposed.
Can we split this?
Can we split this?
Yeah, that
Because,
was my idea too.
because there's the temporary double position and then there's a retirement leave.
Yep.
And so,
You can do however you like. I will say that offices and departments across the county double fill positions that are essential and they absorb that cost just like they absorb the leave buyout costs.
Yeah, the double, the overlap is not new.
Yep, I'm about to overlap Denise for a month.
And when we do this, don't we have several funds that we can actually bill it to as far as general fund versus road fund? If we're gonna do, why would we not wanna do buyouts from the road fund, from the public works out of the general?
We do for public works staff, the buyouts do come from the road
Yeah,
fund.
okay, that's all.
But this particular item is only for the treasurer.
Yeah, okay.
So.
But I thought we were gonna wait until we decided on a bucket.
Yes, we are gonna look at the bucket for the leaf buyout, but there is a proposal from your seatmate to split this because there's 2 items in the treasurer's request.
so never mind, because on here, I think it's only 5,015 for 1 month of a new person to overlap, and then the rest.
30,000 is the leave buyout.
30,000.
That's what I was gonna ask too. Sick leave and vacation is, we can combine those as the leave buyout.
Yeah,
That's the big
So it's 30,000 versus 5,000.
yeah.
So we should just hold this item.
I would suggest that, yes. When we get to the end of the number 2s, we would look at the leaf buyout.
Okay, then let's go to the next one.
All right, so we are on page 8 and line 42. This is a request from the clerk. And this is for the extension of the records position that is funded by the auditor's office. And this one, I would look to staff for help in,
Yeah, what is the
In the numbers.
reduction on revenue? Because it should come with revenue if it comes from the audit.
yeah,
Olivia?
so Olivia's on screen. Yes, help us, Olivia.
Yeah. Yeah, I can help you. So this position was already, part of it had rolled forward, part of the transfers in the budget, and the clerk had pulled a little piece of theirs out and the auditor hadn't. So everything in the system does equal. It nets out to 0. We have revenue for expenses, but just based how it rolled over into the system year after year, we had to unevenly reduce it. And retrospectively looking back, we should have done those adjustments in a technical request and then just put forward one position to not make this so confusing.
So a lot of stuff rolled in here, but overall, no impact on the general fund. Is that?
Correct.
Okay. So.
We figured this out very last minute.
Thank you, Olivia. So that's a yes.
Yeah, we
on
were all thumbs up.
42 and 43. So line 44 is a request from Superior Court to add 2 FTEs to support the 9th judge. You could choose to add 1, it's not an all or nothing.
Right. Can go with the judicial assistant.
605. This was their number 1 priority of Superior Court. Just for everybody's recollection.
By any chance, can any of this come from somewhere besides the general fund? Are they gonna designate this particular judge possibly handles, drug court, I don't know, any other thing, that we could designate treatment sales tax or?
That will be a difficult question to answer because that will be part of the operations of Superior Court, how they're gonna be utilizing the new judge.
How about if they just told us they were gonna do that? I don't care what they do.
Okay, it's just
Sure,
an
you
idea.
No, but
can.
good, just stretching.
Yeah, I'm just stretching.
No, general
So
fund.
remind us again, this is a judicial assistant and,
a
And
reporter.
a clerk, a court reporter.
Carolina, you more than anyone can tell us if this has gotta happen. You've been inside.
Yeah,
Insider,
I mean, if we don't fund this, what are we doing to them? Are we hamstringing this new judge from being successful, or is this?
you're not hamstringing the new judge from being successful, but I mean, I do understand their need for those two. Right now, whenever there's not a court reporter, I know they use pro temp court reporters, so that's kind of what they've been doing to kind of backfill whenever there's not a court reporter available, because they're all
Do they have quite a list of people so they're never short?
there's Capital City Reporting that is a professional.
Oh, they just bring one in
Yeah,
from
so
their
that's
group.
who they use.
Is this the one where they were going like the ratio of kid saps 1-to-1?
Yeah, and so, but my thing is, like, if we give them this position, then they would be, because with the law clerks, because I consider the law clerks, you know, as well as the judicial assistants, I think we're only one behind from support staff, from the documents that they provided, so.
I thought we were more than one behind for some reason.
Well, so my recollection was like, they never had a law, I think, didn't we fund their like first law clerk they ever had?
Yeah, so now they have two law
And
clerks.
they wanted two, and we gave them another one at some point?
So yeah, they have two law clerks and,
that was last year.
yeah.
And the year before, they had 0 when I got on the board. And you're saying if you factor them in as, consider them support, like some jurisdictions don't have law clerks?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay,
Well-
so I'm gonna ask you in two parts. Thumbs up for the judicial assistant, one judicial assistant. I see 2 thumbs, Commissioner Edwards.
Okay, now just a second. You're talking about for B65.
Yeah,
Yes.
that one has 2 positions.
There's 2
Right,
positions
2
in there. And
positions.
you're saying, right now, are we saying, do you want to give them one?
I'm
Of those
asking, do
Let's
you
go
want
one
to
at a
give
time.
them
One of
one
those two.
judicial
One at a time.
assistant? And then I'm gonna ask you, do you want to give them also an official court reporter?
Okay, well, I'll do the one.
Yes to the judicial
Judicial
assistant.
assistant.
Yes, for the JA. And now,
The court reporter.
thumbs up or down for the court report.
Okay. For that, I'm gonna look to my seatmate. Put it on the spot, huh?
They have 2 requests that are, I will say yes for the court reporter, but not for the managing court reporter.
That's coming later.
And that's coming later.
Yeah.
I'll go through.
I remember
So
that.
I'll say yes for a court reporter,
Yeah.
but not for a managing.
I think
court
that's a
reporter.
good
I think that's where I
decision.
landed.
All right, so yes to both of these. Excellent. Okay, so.
Although, just a reminder, you've received a letter from the local bar association suggesting that you should support all Superior Court
Oh,
requests.
sure.
So, just
Just.
For the record. Duly
For the
noted.
record, yeah.
No,
All right, moving to line 46, this is B0614 from Superior Court. This is to add the costs associated for court security CBA. And what this is there's a slight increase in costs for court security through contract negotiations. It's a little under $10,000 a year. I see one thumb up, 2, 3 thumbs, good. Moving to page 9. Line 47 is for district court. This is the request for court interpreter coordinator for both district and superior courts. It's about $100,000 a year. One thumb up.
What are they doing now? They
So
do a phone in?
this is what I'm really gonna this is something I'm really gonna advocate for, just because I saw the kind of imbalance, and I feel that in the long run, it's gonna save the county money. Right now, it's basically staff from each office handles the court interpreters that come in for district court, and then superior manages for main campus and family juvenile court. What ends up happening a lot of times is that court interpreters will come to district court and interpret for one hearing that takes 15 minutes, and they're getting paid for 2 hours, and then Superior Court is also paying for an interpreter around that same time for an interpreter for 2 hours. So there's a lot of that going on. There's not a lot of coordination.
You win.
So
Good.
So I got 2 thumbs up, Commissioner Menzer.
You're gonna win anyway.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with it, but I'm probably on hold right now, but,
You asked for this to be on hold,
well, I just kind of want to see how all the numbers
how
add up.
everything else plays out, that's fine.
Because I was a medium on this, and I just don't know between this and all my other mediums.
Okay. And that's fine, don't.
So is it
Come
a
back.
hold or
That's a
two?
hold.
Two, okay.
It's a 2-0. I mean, I can abstain from it or whatever. Obviously, I'm gonna lose, so either way.
Well,
No, in this process, any commissioner should be able to say, can we
And I
hold
think
and come
that
back
to be
to this?
respectful
So that's a
because you
fair,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes, we
Okay.
don't hold.
So those are the rules of engagement, as Ramiro would say. Line 49 is from District Court. This is the substance abuse monitoring technology for, what are the SCRAM?
Right.
Yeah.
And that is not TST eligible.
It's
No.
not, I mean, were you reading my notes?
Yes, sir.
I contacted both Carrie and Elizabeth, and they both, Elizabeth said no,
No, I have my notes in here. That was the question before I got the answer here.
it's not targeted enough to ensure that this is part of treatment.
and no ARPA?
No, not for this. Maybe in the first year we could use our,
Well-
but not ongoing.
Well, if we can save for 1 year, that's good enough.
I mean, the way,
This is a one-time cost
No, it's ongoing.
no, this is an ongoing request.
at $650,000 a
Yes,
year?
sir.
So what I think the problem behind this is for the county to subsidize this equipment for those individuals who may not be able to afford. There is a lot of individuals associated within this justice system. They have given the option to go to the SCRAM in a way, and sometimes they cannot afford that daily fee.
Keep them on the jail.
But they meet all the other criteria
Yeah,
possibly?
Yeah, they meet all the other criteria, but the only obstacle they have is not being able to pay I think it's $10 a day.
Yeah.
And this what allows is to subsidize a portion of those who doesn't need, who's in need.
You had something?
How about the detention sales tax?
Yeah, why
It's a
not?
stretch, it's a big
It's in
stretch.
lieu of incarceration.
But it's in lieu of incarceration,
Yeah.
so it kind of, it's the at-home monitoring.
So I'm
You're
trying to
incarcerated.
think back, because we had a similar ask a few years ago. And I asked Elizabeth if we could pay with TST, and I think it was electronic home
Yeah,
monitoring.
Jim, I remember that conversation.
Yeah, and I don't think it's considered eligible for detention sales tax, because what your detention sales tax is all about the detention facility. And this is to keep people
You know,
out
I
of
don't know
the
if it's all
facility.
about the facility. I think it can be, and Elizabeth might have said that, but let's go shopping. Let's find out if there's another jurisdiction that is using treatment sales tax to make this happen. We could find out from the vendor who their clients are in Washington and do a little research, because $650,000, that's a lot of money.
So I would just say that if we were actually talking about EHM, I would be 100% with you. Because there's actually, like in Alaska where I used to practice law, I mean, there's case law that says if you're on court-ordered EHM, it's enough like confinement that you have to be given day-for-day jail credit for days you're on EHM. That's how much like confining and detaining people it is.
I think it is.
I think that there's a line though, that this is alcohol monitoring. But this is not detaining anyone. This is just making sure you're not drinking while you're not being detained. So to me, there's a pretty bright line. The line is not between jail and EHM, it's between EHM and Scram.
That's a good,
So I would think it would be very difficult to get that under detention sales tax. I really wanted to do about half of this amount through treatment sales tax because I can tell you, and Judge Buckley made a good case for it. I mean, if you're on a second, third, or fourth DUI, and there's a lot of those cases, you're not getting out without Scram from these Thurston County District Court judges. And if you don't have money for that, you're gonna sit in jail and we're gonna pay, instead of them paying $11 a day, we're gonna pay $42 a day or whatever for their incarceration. So I see a value to it. I just wanted to figure out how, it's a ton of money to commit on an ongoing basis. And I wanted to sort of try it out on a smaller scale with non-general
You can
fund.
consider a pilot program for a year, then with a lesser amount.
With a lesser amount.
Well, how about with COVID? You said we could cover the first year with COVID, with ARPA money.
Said maybe.
Maybe.
I can certainly look, I can look, and the way I would frame that is that we'd be
But what?
keeping people
Yeah,
out of the
Distancing at the
jail.
jail.
So, but Commissioner Mensah just said this isn't about keeping people out of the facility, this is.
No, it is.
It is.
Yeah, oh, very much it
Okay.
is, yeah.
No,
So
I was not saying that
if
at
that's
all.
the fact, then we could, I can see my way clear to saying it is an eligible cost for recovery fund because we are keeping people out of a congregate care facility and reducing the COVID risk.
And social
And we've
distancing.
seen outbreaks at the jail.
So, yeah, I mean,
You get to have the rest of the day off if you want.
Maybe the board may consider funding the first year to see as a pilot program, because this is a brand new program.
Right.
And committed to a long-term ongoing, that may be something you may like to see the results of this pilot program
Yeah.
before you commit to a
Yes.
long-term.
Yeah.
And I don't know that $650,000 pilot program, I mean,
So my only question about a pilot program, we would need this answered by district court, is how would they choose who gets in the pilot and who does not?
Well, they gotta set criteria, and some people are eligible and some aren't.
Maybe that's something that Leah could help with.
But that I think they already had an idea as to how they want to implement this program. The question is, if the board approves, it's a 1 year. Implement the strategies you thought about this, and come back with a report to the board as to how successful that has been.
and I asked Judge Buckley, remember I asked him, I said, if we only gave you half or a third, would that still be something you could use? And he said, absolutely.
They take what they can get.
We could fully use whatever amount you could appropriate. And so what didn't bother him that he'd have to make those kind of choices.
If they can keep people out of jail enough, and along with our LEADS program, we might not even build a jail addition.
That would appropriate
I think
space
you might be
for
right,
women.
Commissioner.
So perhaps I have a proposal for the board to consider, $500,000 on year 2022 using ARPA funds, and nothing in 2023 as a pilot program.
could the 500,000 be used for 2 years?
We can split it however you would like.
But
Or
let's,
give them that money let them deploy it how they see fit.
Yeah,
But you're gonna have 2 years worth, this is 2 years worth of funding. Do you wanna? then they could-
$500,000.
Do you wanna spend it all and then come back and
As they
give a report?
See fit over the course of 2
Yeah.
years,
and
and they have to submit results.
detention funds.
That sounds like,
Nope, not detention,
No.
the
ARPA.
ARPA.
Oh, ARPA.
Well,
that sounds like a proviso.
Okay.
It is a proviso.
So-
You know, we've
Why-
been on the
well, why
same sheet
don't-
of music on
if
this
we're
for
gonna
a
do
couple of years.
500 for the 2 years, why don't we just do the 650
Yeah,
for
kinda
2 years?
scary.
It's our best partnership.
Hello?
Okay.
So I was just wondering if we're gonna do the 500 and it's gonna be covered by ARPA for the 2 years, why don't we just, I mean, might as well do the 650 at this
Well, if
point for
we've
the
got
2
ARPA
years.
funds to do
But
it.
see, remember, you also have a lot of potential uses of the ARPA funds
I
here.
know.
So keep that in mind. So it's all that
All of
balance.
your ideas can't be perfect.
I know.
Well-
We did set aside that $8 million for law and justice
There you go.
related.
But that was
That's
the
part
backlog.
It's part backlog. With any luck, we won't need that much, but we're gonna have to take some of this money out of somewhere because I
Well,
think
this
the
will help with the
retail
backlog.
Mhm.
That's
It's
kind of
gonna
like
help a lot.
the way that we're gonna go through it anyway, so it just, I don't
Well,
know.
that's the decision of the board, I mean.
How much are we talking here? I heard 500, and then Commissioner Mejia said, how about the full 650?
For the 2 years though, not.
Yeah.
For the 2
insurance.
years,
Yeah.
right? For both, not in each year.
I like 500 better, but it's not that big.
I think if Commissioner Mejia thinks that'll work, she's more familiar with the courts than I am. I mean, it's for the 2
I
years.
think that if they spend the amount, they're gonna be coming asking you for more in the midterm.
We'll ask them for a report on how it's going.
Yes,
Yeah.
we're gonna
If
have
we see a
proviso
glowing
that
report, we
requires-
don't need to build a jail for $42 million. Probably won't feel like
We'll feel
holding back. We
feel
won't
like our
mind giving
wallets
them the
full.
money.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, I think it.
So,
500.
500?
500.
is that okay?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, all right.
So 500 over 2 years. And with a proviso.
ARPA.
Yep,
All right.
I got 3 yeses to that. So that's gonna be very exciting. I'll probably get a call from Brandon. Brandon is probably gonna call me
Okay, uh-oh.
about eligibility.
Oh.
But I'm sure, because we need to keep people out of the jail, so I'm pretty confident.
And the community safe,
Yeah,
and that's what it's all about.
And maybe not build a jail.
all right, we are on line 10. Yeah, if only. Line 50 on page 10 is a general fund request from the sheriff law enforcement. It is $10,000 in 2022 only to purchase Narcan. And the question was, can public health buy the Narcan at a non-general fund? Yes,
That was my question.
Yeah,
So-
why not?
I don't know. And I don't have an answer to that. I'm looking to the budget team. Did we happen to get a response from public health on this? Can they buy the Narcan?
They already buy it.
Yeah, they're
so
buying it anyway, and they're giving it away to people in the general public that have taken the training. And if the deputies have taken the training, I certainly think we can give it to them out of that same expenditure. It's kind of dumb to think otherwise, in my estimation.
Oh, Denise went away. Denise was like,
Denise said, okay.
Camera on, camera on.
You go, Commissioner. If public health is buying Narcan, there's no reason they can't buy more for
Right.
the sheriff.
that's kind of,
That's kind of where we're all landing. And heck, we can take $10,000 out of that foundation public health money upon the.
Yeah.
Yeah, still has a capacity there.
Yeah,
I'm in support of it, I just don't, for me, it's like if public health is already buying this in large quantities because they are doing the trainings and they're getting out there to the community,
So,
I don't see why they can't just,
so what I'm hearing is 3-0 with public health money, no general fund.
right now,
Fine.
right? Good, everybody's good. Yep, on this
Five for me, so
with public health. All right,
five.
line 51 is funding for the sheriff for additional licenses for Laserfish. And I'm not sure why that would only be in year one.
Maybe they're 5-year licenses.
No,
Is Ray on there anywhere?
Those are new licenses.
licenses are generally something you have to purchase year after year. Scrub, the sheriff's office has worked with IT to scrub the inventory, but they still need 34 more.
this wasn't even one of their priorities.
Yeah, but they need to get it.
And they gotta have the software to be able to
Yeah,
operate.
that's true. And it doesn't fall under any other fund?
Nope. Sheriff's office is almost all general.
Maybe it's already included on the indirect cost of the following years.
It's not, what
It's
you
not?
see is in the second year, they may
Yeah.
have built it into the
Yeah.
rates, that's possible. Yeah,
My recommendation for you to consider approving this. I mean, they need it.
Yeah, I don't know how they can do business.
You guys
without
must have been high, because I was medium, but I'll go with this.
Yep, I see 2 thumbs, Commissioner Mejia.
Yeah, she-
3, yep, okay. And then we've got line 53, this is for corrections, it is to start paying into ER&R for the body scanner that we just purchased with CARES Act money.
Can we just mention that?
Yes, we could use detention sales tax. God bless you.
But the
So I,
ARPA money was also at play, right, because we bought it with that money,
well, you can,
but not replace it with that money.
not to put into a savings account to replace it in the future, I don't think we could get away with that.
Okay.
So I see 1 thumb up.
For detention sales tax?
Yeah.
2 thumbs for detention sales tax, yeah, 3 thumbs, CSD. All right. And we're on page 11. And this is an ask for the coroner for a lead forensic autopsy technician. $126,000 a year. Well, it's a little higher in the first year for equipment that the person will need. Is this the coroner's number 1?
Yep, no, I'm not sure.
I'm not sure what it falls in his priorities.
Yes, that's your number 1,
This is number 1.
lead forensic autopsy technician.
There's no other way for us to pay for this. It's a 1 thumb, 2 thumbs, 3 thumbs up.
My only concern is I'm not sure there's not another way we can pay for it, because we're having, if we looked at how many people are dying from fentanyl overdose, he's got 30 bodies over there in the morgue right now. And if drugs are killing people and it's causing problems and we gotta do advertising, how come we won't give them much treatment?
No TST.
For the treatment program,
No.
and they're not in the court anymore, so it won't fit with
Yeah,
this.
they kinda, they're $900 a piece to get rid of.
Not to be flippant, but, All right, so we're on page 12, and at the top of the page is line 56. This is B2403. This is a request from Public Defense to expand their indigent defense investigator services. Roughly 90,000 a year. We'll take a few thousand.
So this is the one where I was asking whether there'd be a corresponding reduction in third-party contracts as a result of hiring in-house, and
Yeah,
they were supposed to get back to us with something.
and Denise has the answer to that.
Okay,
Yes, and they amended their change request, including reductions of, I'm just thinking it was like $16,000 that they reduced. But I could double check, that's off the top of my head.
I didn't hear
you
what
were
you
cut
said.
off at the beginning, Denise. Can you repeat your statement?
Oh, my apologies. They did come back with a reduction which they incorporated into this change request. So what you're seeing includes their reduction. I believe it's $16,000, but Commissioner, that's off the top of my head, and I'm happy to double check it.
So I have the numbers. So it was 108 and 102, and now it's 92 and 86. So looks like 16,000 is accurate. They reduced it by 16,000, the net cost. Go ahead, Romero.
Thank you, Denise.
That was Patrick's number 3 priority. The number 1 priority was for the defense attorney 3. And that request is coming for you, so you may want to balance that. Because that was Patrick's number 3 priority.
Can we
Number
attribute
one.
any of this increase to Blake?
He already have other resources related to Blake.
Okay.
Can we hold on this one?
So let's hold, the request was to hold the investigator.
Right, because I think you need to perhaps look at the overall, if I was to advocate for Patrick, I know that his number 1 priority is the defense attorney number 3.
If I were to assess the level of desperation in his voice when I talk to him, you're correct. That felony attorney I know is,
So that's what I want to make sure that perhaps, looking holistically in his office, will appreciate that.
all right, that's fair enough.
All right, moving then on to line 58. This is B2701 out of CPED. That is our Community Planning and Economic Development Department. This is an increase in funding of $8,000 a year for the WSU Extension Program. There's 1 thumb, 2 thumbs.
And there's a budget match requirement somewhere along the line in there that is required, which this covers.
2701.
Yep, 2701, general fund.
And this,
I had this high, so I guess I'm good.
this is being proactive, because as you may recall, usually we negotiate this MOU after the budget is approved, and then we find ourselves in having a budget.
Right.
So this is really being proactive for the board to consider ahead of time, because
They have come in timely this year.
Yeah.
So good job, Steve. So Commissioner Minzer, your thumbs up as well. Great, 3 thumbs up on that. Excellent. Page 13 is line 59. This is B2710, also from CPED. This is $76,000 a year to do a direct appropriation. You see the very next line is a reduction out of non-departmental. So the general fund nets to 0. And then there's also corresponding decrease in the land use fund. So lines 59, 60, and 61 are technical. Please just say yes. Yep, great. Line 62 is emergency management language access assistance. It is from your emergency management department. It's $11,000 a year. And it is to,
Isn't it because of a certain population, we have to have a certain number?
Yeah.
5%.
So I think we have to.
Do we not have a countywide, like,
I'm sorry,
do we not have like a countywide, I'm in support of this. I was just wondering if we have something
no, we do not.
countywide,
No, the offices and departments.
So they're all in charge of
Emergency,
something.
emergency management uses federal grants, and that's one of the requirements.
okay.
All right, so thumbs up on this. I see 1, 2, Commissioner Mensah, 3. Yep, all right, good. And we're almost done with the 2s. Romero, could I ask you to plug in the,
Almost done with the 2s. Maybe at that point we can
yeah, we'll stop
stop and see
and
the, do
upgrade.
the math.
Yep. Line 63, but if I don't plug my computer in, I won't have a, thank you very much. Funny how the light comes back on. Line 63 is also from emergency management. This is an adjustment of an FTE that is currently funded by FEMA, and I think this is the adjustment to grant funding. And I'm looking at the screen and Denise is nodding, thank you. So this is a technical adjustment that just say yes.
Okay.
Yep. 64 is from the Sheriff Law Enforcement. This is funding, it's revenue to the general fund. It is an expenditure out of the road fund. It's an increase in the cost of providing the, it's a transportation services in the Sheriff's Department. So it's really getting paid for out of the road funds.
It's that one position that works for them
It is,
full-time.
it
It's just
is,
the
it
cost,
adds up to about one position. I think it's 2
cost to
people.
do business.
Yep, they charge their hours. So thumbs up on that, super simple, yep. And the last but not least for the item number 2s is, again, out of CPED. This is to increase a current half-time position to full-time in your planning department so they can make additional progress on the docket. It's about $70,000 a year. Yes, I see 1 thumb, 2 thumbs, 3 thumbs up. All right, we're gonna pause there. I'm gonna update the model and give you your new total.
You want to pause for 5, Commissioner?
Yep,
Yeah.
we're gonna pause for 5.
Back up. We're going to start with a clarification from the county treasurer about the discussion regarding one of his budget items and related to the combination item of leave buyout plus position overlap.
Yeah.
And we were talking about the numbers mistakenly, and go ahead,
Right.
go ahead, Robin.
Before, I'm gonna just jump in, just to let people know we are on page 7,
Back to page
line
7.
41, and the change request is B0404.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, Commissioners. County Treasurer Jeff Gadman. I just want to clarify out of that 35,000, we actually are asking for 3 months' salary for that replacement position. It's a key position in the office, and the more training we can get, the better. Step 1 of the salary range is $5,500 a month, so that'd be $16,500. And then add 25% to account for benefits. So you're looking at roughly $21,000. And then the remainder of that is to supplement the vacation and sick leave buyout.
So just to recap, whereas we were reading this as being $5,000 for the overlap and $30,000 for the leave buyout, it's really $20,000 for the position overlap and $15,000 for the leave buyout, which assumes that the board would be implementing this pilot program. We haven't even gotten to that discussion yet. Otherwise, it would be $30,000 for that leave buyout.
Yes.
So it could be a $50,000 request if we don't agree to pay
Correct.
for the do it programmatically for the 50% of the leave buyout.
Correct.
Okay.
So with that clarification, Commissioners, how would you like to have this
No,
conversation?
this is still on hold until they look at all of the leave buyout requests.
So, I mean, there was a proposal to split it, but,
True.
and we can take that up again at that
Right,
time.
The expense is gonna be still on the treasurer's office, because he knows that staff is gonna be retiring, he's gonna be facing that expense.
Okay,
Anyway, and this is a one-time request for 2022 only.
only 2022,
Yep.
okay. All right, thank you, Jeff.
Thank you guys very much
helpful.
for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go back to where we were, Robin.
All right. So where we were is
Page 15, number 67.
Yep, but I am going to show you that with the approval so far, how do I share my screen? There's the model. So far you have spent in 2022, 1.6 million, and in 2023, 1.5 million, rounding, and the graph looks like this. So still money to spend, but closer to the line than you have been,
Okay,
all right? So I had said that when we got to this point, we were gonna look at one of the buckets, and which one was that, do you remember? It wasn't the leave buyout one.
Training bucket?
Oh, I got
It's the, which one? It wasn't the training, we haven't hit training yet.
Wasn't leave buyout, wasn't,
No, and it's not Blake, and we have so many. I'm very sorry, I was gonna come back to one specific one, and now I can't remember
I'm just glad you can. We've
one that is.
run into that problem about 6 times here this week.
Every once in a while, let's see, I should have made a note.
well, in case anyone's getting discouraged, there's only 28 pages more of budget requests in a font so small I need my reading glasses, so
And in a.
it's nothing, guys.
And just a few on hold, you're actually moving right along quite well. Court admin? Yeah, ERP. Well, whichever it was, we can pick it up. let's look at, yeah, I really don't know which one it was. It's crazy.
We gotta get out of here in 10 minutes anyway.
Yep. So let's keep going with the, is it the diversity? No, you've already approved all of those.
We're
Number
at
67.
That's where we're picking up on the, yep, and I stopped sharing my screen. Yes, I did. All right, so let's just go. So we're on line 67. It's a request from Superior Court for managing the court reporter increase. And it's $10,000 a year. And
And for 2 years, right?
it would be an ongoing into the future cost. And it looks like it is just an increase of the need to have the court reporters on site or an increase of the cost of the court reporters.
It's their sixth priority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This isn't the one you said you didn't want to.
Yeah, I'm not gonna vote, I'm voting down.
Oh, I thought this was something else. I thought you were talking about a manager or something.
Well, this is a managing court reporter, this is to
Oh.
have a managing court reporter.
Thank you. For
Okay, man.
$10,000?
Was this the part you said that, well, really that the person they got now can do both Chandler and the main campus? Was this the one?
No, that was the
No.
jury administrator.
They'd be creating one of them into a lead position. Yeah, got it.
So it's bumping one
It would
person up
bump
so that
one
they
up,
can.
yeah, which is why it only costs $10,000 a year. So is this something that you could do, you could tell the Superior Court, sure you can do that, but absorb the cost?
You can go for that, I mean, you have the option. I
Yeah,
mean, there's something 10,000, the courts, if it's important enough, they can implement this request and with no additional increase.
right, they'd have to absorb the cost.
I just don't,
And they have to absorb it every year thereafter until.
That's
we-
right, it would be absorbed.
Okay,
Thumbs down.
I'm going with the boss.
Three thumbs down.
no,
No.
no.
All right, you gotta start saying no at some point.
Yeah. It has become a little more.
Yep.
tight.
Line 68 is for B0707. This is from District Court. It's $3,500 a year for training and professional. And I do have a training bucket for you to review, so let's come back to that. I'm gonna put that on hold. Line 69 is for the prosecuting attorney. They are asking to add a victim advocate position to criminal division. And they are asking for this from the general fund because their special victim fund would not support this position.
How many do they have now?
That is a great question. That's something, I don't know that any of our staff would know that. So the question is, how many victim advocates do they currently have? So I'm gonna look at staff and ask if there's a quick way to look that up. Yes, Denise?
I can figure that out, but it will take me a few minutes.
All right, so we can come back to this. Let us know when you've got it, Denise. All right. We'll come back as soon as she's got the answer to that. So top of page 16, line 70, B1007. This is from the Sheriff Law Enforcement. This is funding for wage adjustments on the market study results.
So that's the other part
Yep, it's
of
the other
your
half.
corrections based on the conversation you had this morning.
Yep. So you said yes to the corrections side. Will you say yes to the law enforcement side?
Yeah, we have to do that.
Yep.
so yeah, I'll say the same with the same conditions that we did on the previous one.
Right. So
Just
the,
you will see an agenda item next Tuesday, for you to consider changing the classifications in order to exercise your decision to reopen the funding.
To
For these
do
three
that
classes.
5%.
Well,
This
no,
only reflects the staff's recommendation that we have presented to you.
So
So-
far,
out of the 5 positions.
we're doing 3.
You're saying yes to 3 of them, and that's what we'll bring forward next week.
Then-
But we haven't decided, we're gonna either put the 5 in
No.
on each one?
For the other 2.
Yeah,
For the other two
Further
classifications.
discussion on that.
That
And when will we have that discussion?
on Tuesday.
Okay. Line number 71 is from the sheriff, it's corrections, and they are asking to add tasers to the ER&R fund. And you could fund this from detention sales tax.
Okay, that's fine.
Yes? Yes, yes. Line number 73 is from the coroner. This would create a lead deputy coroner position and be the premium pay for that lead.
Yes.
I see 2 thumbs, Commissioner Mejia. Yep, 3 thumbs. 3 thumbs up. All right. Line 74 is from non-departmental. It is the $1 million for your annual transfer to the Budget Stabilization Fund.
And where does this come out of?
So it's from the general fund.
Is it that
And it's
piece?
from windfalls. So I will tell you, if you say no to this, then when we close the year, we'll be following the resolution that the board passed. This really belongs in maintenance level. But we'll follow the resolution, and depending on the windfall, I would come back to you at that time and ask you to authorize the transfer. This would be pre-authorization.
Oh, okay, I guess my question then is, we're going down here and we're eating up general fund as we're authorizing some of this budget stuff.
Yep.
If we do this, do we automatically eat up $1 million of that fund right now?
Yep.
Bang?
So I'm suggesting that you say no to this at this time.
Okay.
And I would come back to you in the spring and tell you exactly how much windfall money we have.
Okay.
I'm okay with that, yeah.
Yep.
We'll still do it, because
Commissioner Messer?
we got windfall money coming in like mad.
Okay.
Okay.
Because we already have 2.5, right? And then in the spring, there's more than that's.
So that might be a good place to start. That's
Yep.
priority 3.
Yep, that is the end of priority 3.
Now we're up to 4.
Yep, we will start in tomorrow with the 4s. Yep,
Once we finish 4s, and how many, that's up to page 24. There's a lot of 4s, but once we get to past 4, then not, single commissioners found that to be a high priority up top. So I mean, that's kind of a,
and I think that the 5s aren't 5s, 1 high, 1 medium, 1 low.
oh, they are, you're right.
Yeah,
You have to go through 5 to find no commissioner found it to be a highest priority.
so this is a great place to stop, and we'll pick it up again tomorrow.
9 o'clock?
Yep.
Okay, well with that, it was a productive day, and we'll be back here 9 a.m. tomorrow morning on a new session for the public to follow along with the YouTube. We're adjourned.